Welcome back. Now, the Steel and Engineering Industries Federation of Southern Africa is calling for an industry reconstruction, reindustrialization and development plan. This to help reset the environment, to help the industry, which employs around 200,000 people in terms of the broader value chain, thrive. CEO of the industry body, Lucio Trentini, joins us with more detail. Thank you so much for your time, Lucio. What is it that's broken that's led to the call for a reset?
Thank you and good afternoon, and good afternoon to your viewers. We're in the middle of our industry collective bargaining cycle, which covers, amongst other things, wages and terms and conditions of employment. We struck a 3-year deal in 2021, and that deal expires on the 30th of June. And as part of the next agreement that we hope to strike in the next couple of weeks, we want to make reindustrialization of our sector that we all earn a living in key and central to whatever settlement agreement we are able to arrive at.
I must then ask you, Lucian, I think on the back of the question that Zinati makes mention of here, when we speak of reconstruction, when we speak of reindustrialization here, the complexities of this, considering how long the sector may have seen a deconstruction and deindustrialization.
Yeah, I mean, you make an absolute valid point. I mean, this sector has been in a deindustrialization cycle probably as far back as 2007. And what's been disappointing is that all the industrial policies that we've seen that have come out of government thus far have been quite generic in their intent and application. What we are saying as a manufacturing sector, a huge sector that employs in excess of 230,000 blue-collar workers, 9,000 companies spread across the length and breadth of South Africa, we're saying that organized labor, and we do engage with some of the biggest trade unions in the country, NUMSA, NUM, Solidarity and others, and organized business, SEIFSA obviously being one of the larger bodies, but we do sit around the table with other employer bodies in the sector. And what we want to do as part of this year's settlement agreement is to bunker around a set of interventions that we believe this industry can play a part in rolling out across our industry. Remember, this is the manufacturing sector. We comprise of engineers and specialists who know how to solve problems. On top of that, we oversee industry pension and provident funds that are currently worth 139 billion rand. And some of that money can be used to fuel industrialization spend for our sector.
Quite interesting that you also say that the industrial policies that are developed have been quite generic, because a lot of the time you ask whether it is the policies that are just not good enough or rather the implementation of that. And I'm just wondering how engagement has been so far. Do you think that there's just a broken telephone situation in terms of engagement when it comes to those policies and also implementation?
You know, we are known as a country for having excellent policies and great intentions. We fail in the implementation and the rollout of those plans and objectives. Sometimes those plans and objectives can be quite, as I indicated earlier, quite generic. What we want to do as organized business and labor is to bunker around the table and come up with a policy, which we then wish to take to government, to say, this is what would suit this sector. This sector sits in the center of our economy. This sector comprising of a sector that generates 900 billion rands worth of revenue, comprising of 9,000 companies and many, many workers, we can play a role and a part in stimulating and reigniting growth. If we don't do it, no one's going to do it for us. And if we can, as a sector, improve where we find ourselves today, as a supplier and customer to the mining, manufacturing, processing, auto, motor sectors, and construction sector around us, if we rise, we can bring everyone up with us. But if we fall, the pain is felt by everyone. In 2021, we had a 3-week strike. That strike cost our sector alone 600 million rand a day in terms of lost revenue. We cannot have a repeat of that in 2024.
I must ask you here about the Steel Master Plan and why that is not a sufficient enough plan here. And if it also is so insufficient that it doesn't, give confidence to investment.
Well, we are a signatory. SEIFSA, that is a signatory, and so is NUMSA, and so is Solidarity. We're all signatories to the Steel Master Plan. We stand behind the lofty goals and intentions behind the Steel Master Plan. But once again, it's too generic. It's too overarching. It sets too many objectives and goals. And we think we need to narrow the focus on 4 or 5 key issues, energy being one of them, water being another, roads, rail, the deteriorating states of our municipalities. These are all things that happen right outside our members' front door. If we can get those things right, the Steel Master Plan can be a platform on which we can do a hell of a lot more. At the moment, the Steel Master Plan has disappointed lately in its ability to deliver. We stand behind the original founding principles and objectives, and we remain committed to seeing it through. What will happen with the political landscape post 29th of May, and who will be driving and who will be the champion of steel master plans in our economy, given who the current minister in the DTIC is, time will tell. But whoever it is, whether it's Minister Patel or anyone else, we remain available and we remain eager and willing to work with government to make a meaningful contribution to the growth trajectory in this sector.
Lucio, I understand that you've said that the steel industry sits at the center of the economy. When you rise, everything else around you rises. But at the same time, you also need the economy to thrive. And I'm wondering how much headway the metals and engineering sectors can actually make under the marginal economic growth that we are still seeing in South Africa.
Yeah, look, South Africa has underperformed, has underdelivered, and there is so much lost potential that we have failed to deliver on over the last decade. Economic growth in 2023 last year was about 1.9%. In the year before that was 0.6%, and that was on the back of being through a disastrous, COVID global pandemic period. Forecast for economic growth in 2024 going forward, you can pick a number anywhere between 0.5% and 1.2% if we're lucky. So times are tough. There's no doubt. Times are tough. And we as a sector need to rise above the annual discussions around wages and terms and conditions of employment. Take nothing away from wages. We have said it in our meetings thus far. We have to settle wages before we can get on to dealing with the so-called reconstruction, reindustrialisation and development plan. And we have a proposal which we will be presenting at the next meeting on the 24th of April. Okay. We want to deal with the angst and anxiety and the vexed issue of wages quickly. We want to sign a deal and then sit down and talk about an industry policy for the metals and engineering industry, a huge, huge sector for this economy.
Well, Lucio, looking forward to hearing all about those developments. I think all of us waited with bated breath to see a recovery for the sector as well. That was SEIFSA CEO Lucio Trentini.